The Trump administration continuing their campaign against cartels, taking out a 16th drug smuggling boat off the coast of South America, killing 2 narco-terrorists. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is set to brief top Republican and Democrat lawmakers on the strikes today, after Democrats claimed that they were being left out in the dark. Joining us now to discuss is conservative analyst and former White House staffer Daniel Garza. Daniel, thank you for joining us today. As you know, the administration is saying that these strikes in the Caribbean on these boats and the military presence, which is really tremendous that we're seeing there, is all about drugs. I think you and I both know that it's also about China, and not just China's contribution to the drug problem that we have coming through our country in the form of fentanyl, but also their presence in the Western Hemisphere. Tell me your thoughts on what Trump is doing and whether you think this is a good idea.
Well, Rachel, look, I think the main security risk to America is that the Trump administration has hinted that they have proof that some countries across the Western Hemisphere are not only impotent against cartels or even indifferent to the violence endured by many of the innocent victims, their own citizens, mind you, but politicians in power are complicit with the cartels. And that poses a grave risk to American safety and security, and it cannot be ignored. I think what Marco Rubio is going to deliver today is going to be a sober assessment of the growing threat to Americans, and that there needs to be direct action continued.
Yeah, here's Hakeem Jeffries accusing the Trump administration of not justifying these strikes. Listen.
The Pentagon, the Trump administration, so-called Secretary of Defense, all those folks who are part of the national security apparatus, they failed to provide a shred of evidence to justify the killings that are taking place off the coast of South America. Not a shred of evidence. And we're open to it. And it's congressional responsibility to evaluate that.
Your thoughts?
Not a shred of evidence. According to the Armed Conflict Location Report, Mexico is the second most dangerous country to live in the world. Citizens live under constant fear. My own parents live under a curfew imposed by the cartel, under a justice system that is imposed by the cartel. If you go to the cops will turn you into the cartel, and you'll suffer violence from them. There's over 30,000 reports of cartel-related violence in Mexico every year. Murders of journalists, of politicians. Just this week, Manso, mayor of Uruapan, Michoacan, was killed begging for help. This is coming to America. It is the growing arm of the cartel that is reaching into our communities now. Here in South Texas, we see it. What do? Do we just sit on our hands waiting for the cartel to take over? This is just incredible to me. Again, I don't think that Trump is going to be one of those leaders that is going to follow the approach of appeasement, like a lot of the Latin American leaders that we see, like Petro and Sheinbaum. He's going to take direct action, and it's going to be led by the military in this case, drone strikes by Peter Hegseth. And I think it's high time there needs to be direct action and a direct message sent to these cartels.
Well, this is a headline from NBC News. It says that the Trump administration is planning a new mission in Mexico against the cartels, and that current and former U.S. officials are saying that, quote, the early stages of training for the potential mission, which would include ground operations inside of Mexico, has already begun. But a deployment to Mexico is not imminent. Daniel, I don't know what you think. This, to me, sounds like a very direct message to Claudia Sheinbaum, her own people say she's in bed with the cartels. You mentioned this assassination. It is a huge deal in Mexico. Americans may not be quite understanding what the execution of that mayor in Michoacan means to the Mexican people, but it is kind of a turning point. And there are now calls for her to step down from the presidency. Talk to me about about that event this past weekend, which is huge. And then at the same time, President Trump saying, we are going to take out the cartels if you don't, Claudia Sheinbaum.
Rachel, this was a very public homicide in plain daylight in front of his family. This mayor who was taking on the cartels was murdered after begging Sheinbaum, who suffers from an incredible naivete about some willpower that somehow she thinks her party has over the cartel to control them. And then she will parrot the really just manipulated data, to show that whatever she's doing, these hugs, not bullets approach is working. She's talks about this marginal drop in homicide rates, according to this sort of dubious internal report from Mexico that ignores the disappearance, Rachel, of hundreds to even thousands of Mexican citizens, innocent citizens, who have died under the hands of the cartel. They find mass graves across Mexico, but they refuse to deliver on those numbers, right? Because it doesn't fit their narrative. So there's just this incompetence, this ineptitude that we're seeing across Latin America, and it cannot come to our shores.
Absolutely. Mexico is a narco state. There's no question about it. Daniel Garza, thank you so much for joining us.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.